And on the screen, the big screen in the corner of Portman Road, Dennis Law pictured both in a Manchester United shirt and a Manchester City shirt. So here we go, ready for kick-off. Ipswich Town. Kieran McKenna's certainly made the changes, rung the changes, 5 of them in all from Thursday night, so Wolfenden and Greaves are not involved. Phillips can't play, Calvin Phillips, against Manchester City, since he's on loan from them. Broadhead and Burns are on the bench. So Ben Godfrey comes in at the back for his league debut for Ipswich. Burgess and Johnson as well at the back. Jack Clark also comes into the side. And Manchester City with 4 changes, with Ruben Dias back from injury after 6 matches out. Doku, Gundogan, goalkeeper Ederson plays in this one as well. So the Ipswich side: Walton, Godfrey, O'Shea and Burgess, Johnson and Davis wide, Cayusta and Morsey in the middle, Hutchinson, Clark and Delap, and Manchester City with Ederson, Akanji, Dias and Guardiol, Mateus Nunes, Jeremy Doku, Kovacic, Gundogan, Foden, De Bruyne and Haaland. The referee, Sam Barrett, blows his whistle, and the match begins here at Portman Road on 5 Live and the World Service. World Service listeners, join us here on a very grey, very chilly afternoon for Ipswich Town against Manchester City. Ipswich in the relegation zone, and the champions currently in 8th place in the Premier League, their lowest league position all season. And Ipswich Town in the blue shirts with the white pinstripes, white shorts and blue socks, and Manchester City in the all maroon change kit for this one with the white numbers on the back. Here is Hutchinson as Ipswich break away from the edge of their own penalty area, but City back in position and Ipswich go back to the edge of their own box. And in the first half here, Ipswich defending the Sir Bobby Robson stand, the 2-tier stand, which is to our left as we look from our high position, as I say, almost right over the 2 managers' dugouts. And Delap, playing against his old club, wins a free kick. Mark Schwarzer 10 yards inside his own half.
Yeah, Liam Delap is obviously a formidable player for Ipswich. He's someone that needs a lot of support, though. They haven't really been able to give him that very often this season. I saw it on Thursday again, often isolated. He runs and works crazily in the pitch, and he just needs more help at times, needs more support. And Mari Hutchinson's just come back from injury. Hopefully he can get back to some really good form as well.
Well, this is nice for Ipswich. Johnson and Godfrey working together, and Godfrey is off like a right winger down the right flank, and eventually just checks back and gives it back to Morsey, the captain, returning to the team. His crossfield pass, though, is easily... Oh, well, I say, I thought Mateus Nunes was just going to cushion that back to Ederson, and he's headed it straight behind for a corner, a cheap corner, and a set piece for Ipswich to be taken from the left-hand side.
Yeah, Sam Morsey looks at that diag. It's a decent ball, just goes straight though to Nunes. Nunes has a simple header back to his goalkeeper and just gets it wrong. Goes straight out for a corner and puts his side under a little bit of pressure.
So a corner that Ben Johnson will take from over there on the far side, in front of the Manchester City fans who are on their feet, clapping their hands above their heads. Johnson takes this into the edge of the 6-yard box, and it's headed wide. Cameron Bird just got to it, but he was under severe pressure there. That was actually really well defended by, it was Akanji, wasn't it?
Yeah, Akanji does brilliantly well, he really does, because Cameron Bird just gets a run up on him. And I tell you what, he comes across, it's actually Diaz who makes the initial contact. He gets the header, he's the one that the last second makes the header interception. Otherwise that could have easily been 1-0 to Ipswich Town.
So the left back, or left wing back as he is today, Leif Davis, is going to take this one into the near post, but that delivery isn't as good as it was from Johnson on the other side. De Bruyne at the near post was able to head it down, and Hutchinson, though, Ipswich have got it back. Davis still on the right hand side, but here's a left-footed ball from him, high in towards the back post. Ederson comes and he makes the catch. Good catch.
Yeah, he did really well, Ederson. It was a nice curling ball, a lot of height on it. Just had to get his timing right, and he certainly got that right. It was a really good take. That's something on Thursday as well. Leif Davis wasn't at his best with his deliveries in the box. That one was slightly overhit as well. He's got such a good whip and power on the ball. He just needs to get that right. If he can get the delivery right, like any time, it causes teams all sorts of problems.
There's a foul by Johnson on Gvardiol, so a free kick to Manchester City. Mark Schwarzer sitting alongside me. Long time Premier League goalkeeper, World Cup goalkeeper with Australia as well, over 100 caps. And what about this goalkeeping change that Gvardiol has made today, with Ederson coming back in as the ball is played back to him? So comfortable, though, just kills the ball, even though Delap was 3 yards away from him. Kills the ball with his left foot, passes it out. But Ortega back on the bench, having started the last 5 Premier League matches. Today it's Ederson.
Well, I think it was a bit of a surprise in the first place to see Ortega take over from Ederson, for me personally. And I think, obviously, for City, the form wasn't there, had been pretty poor. They've been losing games, and I think, not quite sure why, but obviously Pep Guardiola decided that it was time for Ortega to come in the side. I know Ederson had a few injuries, but to find himself on the bench for as long as he did was surprising. But now to see him back in the side, I think that's the right thing, and he's a top-class goalkeeper.
Kevin De Bruyne trying to slip the ball through the inside right position for Mateus Nunes to run onto that, but marginally overhit by Kevin De Bruyne, and the ball ran through before Mateus Nunes got there over the white line for a goal kick. And it's Ipswich Town 0, Manchester City 0. Already today we've brought you commentary on 3 Premier League matches, very eventful as well, up and down the country with the various results, and we'll have more as well, as Delap is caught offside, so it's a free kick to Ipswich halfway inside their own half. Yes, at some point this afternoon, Mark, we will hear from your fellow countryman Ange Postecoglou after their defeat at Goodison Park, hopefully at half-time, after their 7th defeat, Tottenham, in their last 10 matches. Were 3-0 down, ended up losing 3-2. As Ederson passes the ball out from the back to Gundogan, who turns away and sets off towards the halfway line. He has Doku now. Doku for Manchester City, also coming into the side today. Infield to Gundogan. Then the ball out to Mateus Nunes on the right flank. Infield again. De Bruyne now, 30 yards out. Kevin De Bruyne across to Gvardiol. Gvardiol moves inside Hutchinson. He's got it in a central area now, and then just gives it back to Akanji, who has joined the attack. City again, De Bruyne. First pass is blocked. Hutchinson's in front of him, and Hutchinson does come out with the ball. He's got 3 City players around him, and he's been dispossessed by Gvardiol. So Doku scored 2 goals in the win last weekend. Doku against Salford. Ederson did play in that one. And Doku again receives possession, goes past Johnson, but then Godfrey blocks the intended pass through towards Kevin De Bruyne, and Manchester City are back in possession. When you see them like this, you wouldn't know that there'd been any sort of a problem with the season that they've had. This is very much out of the playbook that we've seen over the years of success now for Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. And he's on his feet now for the first time, just down in front of his big padded black coat. A couple of orders there being sent out, I think, to Akanji over on the far side, while City have possession over here on the left flank with Gundogan and Gvardiol just exchanging passes at close quarters. Then Doku is rather shrugged off the ball by Johnson, and Ipswich now move forward. Ball is played for Clark. Excellent from Clark. He goes past Foden. He goes past Gvardiol. He gives it to Delap. Delap approaches the penalty area, into the box now, beats the defender, left foot shot, that's deflected, and it comes out for Godfrey. Ipswich still going here. Godfrey drives it across, it hits Diaz, and that's cleared away in the end by Gundogan. And now Haaland's into the action for the first time. Haaland, 2 days after that surprise news about his new contract, passes the ball to De Bruyne, who then couldn't give him the ball back. What a contrast that was, Mark. Lots of tippy-tappy from Manchester City, and suddenly Ipswich like a bullet at gate.
Yeah, that's what Ipswich are waiting for. They're set up that way. Obviously, back 3, back 5 when they're defending. Midfielders are deep, trying to really create as little space as possible for Man City. They like to play through the middle with Gundogan and obviously Kevin De Bruyne at that time, and it was quite easy for Ipswich just to hold the line, shuffle across, make the defensive blocks that they needed to. And the danger is always they're quick on that counter-attack, and this occasion they got very, very close.
Liam Delap, the Ipswich top scorer, so, well, he's absolutely pivotal, isn't he, to whether they stay up this season after the 2 successive promotions. 2 years ago, don't forget, 2 years ago, Ipswich were in League One. In fact, this week, they were, 2 years ago, they were losing to Oxford United. Now here they are in the glare of the Premier League, playing 4 times successive champions Manchester City. Godfrey, who's obviously got licence to go forward from the right side of the 3 central defenders, then back to the goalkeeper Walton, who hits it long up towards Delap, and Manchester City are back in possession again. Delap, the former Manchester City youngster, the son of Rory Delap, as Gvardiol plays the ball in towards the edge of the box, but Davis comes across, passes it forward towards Delap, who turns, but he turns into trouble, dispossessed by a combination of Diaz and Gundogan. Left foot first time pass from Gundogan to Mateus Nunes, who's over on the right flank. He is versatile, the Portuguese international, the Brazilian-born Portuguese international. Gundogan, 25 yards from goal, back out to the right-hand side again, and then a left-footed pass finds Kovacic in space, but Kovacic's pass blocked on the edge of the box. Now again Gvardiol works it to the left-hand side to Doku, who is quickly closed down by Johnson. It's still 0-0 if you've just switched onto us here at Portman Road under the floodlights. Kovacic, 30 yards from the Ipswich Town goal, is forced further back, and then Kovacic, nice neat pass to Foden. Mateus Nunes again, and then Nunez's pass is cleared away by Burgess on the edge of his own penalty area. The pattern, Mark Schwarzer, is very clear. There's a long pass. I'm not sure Doku will keep it in. He does get there, but can only turn it out for a throw to Ipswich. Yeah,
it's the problem here also for Portman Road is that the pitch is nice and narrow. Certainly great for Ipswich, but for opposition teams, there's not a lot of room behind, especially when a team's sitting deep. It's nice and compact. Crowds on top of you. You've got to get that right. Manchester City tries that long pass over the top, and Doku, because of his pace, he's able to just keep it in, but they're not effective. They give the throw in to Ipswich.
So 0-0 it is, but Ipswich did threaten on their one attack when they lost in what was Manchester City's first home match of the season, 4-1. Haaland scored a hat-trick in that game, an offside flag against Kevin De Bruyne in that game in August. You might remember Smodic scored early. He's on the injured list for Ipswich at the moment. That was in the 7th minute. That was their only attempt on goal, Ipswich. But it's got a different feel about it here. And as we were saying earlier in the build-up to the match, a great deal of water has passed under the bridge since Manchester City romped it against newly promoted Ipswich back in the early stages of the season. The ball's with Walton, the goalkeeper. He passes it to his right to O'Shea, then it's back to Walton, now over to the left-hand side to Burgess, the Australian international. Comes back to him in the left-back position. That was rather awkwardly played away, and in fact it bounces straight out for a throw-in to Manchester City.
This might be one of the problems that Ipswich will face tonight. If they try and play too much out of the back, Manchester City obviously are just poised, waiting to close them down. They've got to be absolutely precise. Sometimes I might be better off looking for that longer ball, just trying to turn Manchester City around a little bit.
Manchester City assume possession of the ball again. Most of the match so far, 12 minutes of it has been played inside the Ipswich half. But here they are, they're able to break away with Hutchinson, who draws the foul and does get it as well from referee Barrett right down in front of us here. Pep Guardiola has zipped up his coat. I told you it was cold.
It's very cold. Like I said, I was only here a couple of days ago. It was nowhere near as cold. It was actually quite mild. Today, it is Baltic.
Yeah. You've been here a lot this season. I've heard you a lot at Portman Road.
I have been, yes. I've enjoyed it. It's been really good. It's been a great place to watch football, and Ipswich at times play some really entertaining football. And, I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for their momentum to kick in. I'm waiting for them to go on a run. And I thought it may be on Thursday against Brighton. It wasn't to be. Maybe today.
Burgess, long pass. Davis is already on the run down the left-hand side. That is such a feature of Ipswich Town. The left back pushing forward with his socks right down. Comes back up the line. Now Morsey back out towards Clark on the left-hand side. The former Sunderland youngster did very well with them last season, and then got his move to the Premier League. Jack Clark for 15-20 million pounds, that sort of figure. Godfrey forward. Godfrey on loan from Atalanta, the former Everton defender, having just arrived. This is his league debut. He did play for Ipswich in the FA Cup last weekend against Bristol Rovers. But Manchester City are back in possession now with Gundogan. Little pass to Haaland, who comes deep and then plays it back halfway inside his own half. Yes, it's such a long time since I've done a commentary at Portman Road. I actually can't remember when it was. But coming here, you know, so much about the place has changed, but yet many things are very, very familiar, not least the cobbled stand on the far side of the ground with the corrugated roof there. It's very tight in there, and of course all along the middle section of that they've got that black roof which covers the lower part of the stand.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the old school sort of stadiums. I still really like that. I love the new ones, of course, don't get me wrong, but I also do enjoy the fact that in the Premier League we've got so many still those old school type of stadiums, a real feel to them.
Yeah, you must have played here, Mark.
A long time ago.
Yeah. Here's Gundogan to Foden on the halfway line. Foden in good goal-scoring form. 3 goals in his last 2 matches. Scored 2 goals against Brentford when Manchester City were leading 2-0 in the 82nd minute, yet drew. Ball played through. Haaland's in! Through the middle! Walton makes the save! Haaland on the follow-up. No, he couldn't get there. It bounced away and behind. Well done, Christian Walton. There aren't many who deny Haaland in that sort of position.
No, he does excellently. He really does so well, Christian Walton. And the ball from Kovacic is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Well placed, well timed, the strength of the pass was excellent. And you're thinking, Haaland, that's it. He's gone. He's scoring. He's leaping over the goalkeeper. Walton does go down a little bit. He has to because Haaland gets so close. Wants to make the block.
Corner is taken. Doku working it goalwards. Went for the near post, actually. Received it on the right side of the penalty area. Twisted, turned, hit a low shot, but Walton went down and made a routine save, actually, this time.
Yeah, he mishit it, didn't he? Doku didn't quite get it, but back to the Haaland. He's through one-on-one. He tries to lift it over Walton. Walton just holds his ground long as he possibly can and gets 2 really strong hands on it and pushes it wide. Really, really good save.
Yeah, he kept his eye on the ball, Walton. And he had Haaland bearing down on him, and now Gundogan's won it back. Gundogan square. De Bruyne tried to tee up De Bruyne to Haaland, and then Kovacic arriving on the edge of the box blasts the shot over, arriving onto it in the D, edge of the area, but couldn't keep it down.
Yeah, I mean, big chance for City. I tell you what, there was a number of players I felt should have had a shot on goal. They win the ball back. Gundogan's really quick to pounce. He lays the ball square, penalty area to De Bruyne. De Bruyne, for some reason, decides to lay it back to Haaland. Haaland's run out of space. He can't get the shot on. It gets blocked. Kovacic comes up with a follow-up. Edge just inside the box. There's players throwing themselves. Sam Mosley makes himself really big, and he just can't keep it under the crossbar. Skies it over.
Yeah, there was a poor touch, wasn't there, from Kajusta in there as well, the Swedish international who very nearly presented it to them. Kajusta now forward towards Delap. Well, Ipswich Town are fortunate that it is still Ipswich 0, Manchester City 0. And they have partly Walton to thank for that, but also wasteful finishing from Manchester City. So still goalless with over 15 minutes played. Ipswich through to Hutchinson. This is more central. He dragged it back but then couldn't find the pass to Clark. And Mateus Nunes more centrally here. Haaland receives it almost on the centre spot, then turns. Haaland's off on a run into the area. Foden to his right. Foden's shot is blocked by the diving defender, and Morsey's able to play it away, but Mateus Nunes heads it forward. However, that bounces all of the way through safely for a goal kick to Ipswich.
Yeah, really good defending from Cameron Burgess there. He didn't dive in. When Foden gets the ball, he's looking to try and a couple of step overs to the ball. He's waiting for some movement from the big centre half, trying to put him off, maybe dive in. In the end, he elects to go for the shot, and Burgess is alert, and it's a really good block.
Well, it feels like Ipswich are being brave here. And there's a nice flick from Clark to Delap. Another one with his socks a long way down his calves. Then Davis. Here's Morsey from Kajusta. Back from Morsey to Kajusta again. And now the ball is rolled across to Godfrey here on the right. And Johnson goes back to Godfrey. Little chip forward, but that's cut out by Diaz with a high-ish foot on Hutchinson, who had a look towards the assistant, but it's out of play and it's a throw-in to Ipswich. Let's go back to Sohail Sahi, who's watching West Ham Chelsea in the Women's Super League.
And Chelsea have scored a fifth, John. It's West Ham 0, Chelsea 5. This time it's an own goal, ball played from the right, and then Amber Tiziak got the last touch to it, the West Ham defender. West Ham 0, Chelsea 5.
So Chelsea matching Arsenal, who earlier won 5-0 against Crystal Palace in the WSL. Tottenham 1, Leicester 0 was the final score as well. Davis on the left. Davis's ball in too close to Ederson, who's able just to take little steps out of his 6-yard box and catch it in front of his face.
Yeah, just slightly overhit it, doesn't he? Leif Davis, it was a really good run into the box from Delap, just needs the right delivery.
De Bruyne says to Doku, go on then, and Doku into the area, low cross to the near post. That is blocked behind by O'Shea for another Manchester City corner. But again, Mark, it's as you're saying about Davis.
Yeah, it's about delivery, isn't it? He needs to get his delivery right. He's got the ability to do so. This one he's just slightly overhits again, and it's Ederson who comes out and takes the cross. And this is where the most danger comes for Ipswich. When they commit players forward, Manchester City equally are very, very ruthless on attack, on the counter-attack.
So it's a corner for Manchester City from the left. Almost 20 minutes played, still Ipswich 0, Manchester City 0, 5 Live and the World Service from the BBC. Short corner to Doku, then back to De Bruyne. Now it's found its way to Foden. Left foot shot from him. Actually, Gundogan very nearly controlled that and turned. It just got away from him and ran through to goalkeeper Walton.
Yeah, very, very close. As Foden hits the ball, it takes a deflection, a block, and it goes straight to Gundogan. Gundogan tries to take it. He's making a run towards the goal. He tries to take it on the turn. He's back to goal, just slightly can't control the ball, and it leaves his position. The goalkeeper is really quick to come out then and gather up the scraps. So
it is still goalless, and a very good atmosphere inside the ground, certainly helped by the Manchester City supporters. I saw one of them who I've met before the match as I was walking along the River Orwell earlier, Mark, and I said to him, do you think they're back on track yet? And he said, no, not yet. And he's going to be off to Paris this week with them. A really big match in the Champions League against PSG, who are in the elimination places, and Manchester City in 22nd in the Champions League table. So that is one of our European commentaries. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night this week. Do join us for those.
Well, it's a big night, isn't it, for Manchester City as their season, for the rest of the season. See where they are, what they're going to be able to accomplish this season. Being out of the Champions League in an early stage or in the playoffs would be a bit of a surprise, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if PSG were to win that on Wednesday, City could be in serious peril. However, their last match is against Club Bruges at home. But again, just to repeat it, I don't think you can take anything for granted, can you, with Manchester City? Although it does have a different feel, I think, now with players coming back from the injuries. It's a much lighter injury list now for Manchester City with I mean, Bob is very close to coming back as well, Oscar Bob, so Stones and Rodri on that list, but Diaz back today, although there's no Ake for Manchester City today. Ball played forward for Ipswich, first time touch from Hutchinson, back to Godfrey, Johnson and Godfrey together, little ball in field from Hutchinson, but it runs away from it, and Manchester City have got it back inside their own half. Long pass from Diaz, who's been out for the last 6 matches with a calf problem. De Bruyne tried to slip it forward to Foden. That was intercepted by Burgess. Now he has one for Clark to chase, but Akanji comfortably there ahead of him. And Diaz has a look over his shoulder to see where Hutchinson is, so passes it back. Then Burgess wins a header on the halfway line. Every little win, you can hear it being cheered to the rafters by the Ipswich Town supporters, and Delap does well, takes it around the outside of Nunez and then is shoved over. Kovacic is furious with that decision, but it is a free kick to Ipswich in the Manchester City right back area. Yeah,
I mean, it is an area where I think Ipswich will look to exploit. Nunez obviously is not the best defender. Delap does so well. Firstly, winning the ball off Kovacic, his brute strength, then he gets around Nunez. It's too easy letting him around, and Nunez actually pushes him in the back, both hands. Kovacic doesn't see it in his defence. That's why he's complaining to the referee, because he's not touched him and he hasn't, and it's Nunez is the one who gives the free kick away.
He was looking for it, Delap, and he got it. But as Mark Schwarzer says, a little naive from Kovacic to come in with the force that he did. And Delap probably always feeling that contact was going to go down. So it's a set piece now in front of the Sir Alf Ramsey stand to our right. Two-tiered, close to the action, looking down on Leif Davis, who's going to deliver this. He's the only candidate. One-man wall. So Davis standing with one foot in front of the other. The left-footed delivery to the edge of the area. Hutchinson shoots left-footed, but it flies over the top corner with a little deflection for our corner.
Yeah, they do so well, Ipswich, don't they? I mean, you can see it before. Cameron Burgess is over with Leith Davis having a discussion. He comes over and gets together with O'Shea and says, right, this is what we're going to do. They do a block. They prevent Manchester City having a chance of closing down the shot. And I tell you what, Hutchinson's not very far off at all.
Nicely worked, very nicely worked. Still Ipswich 0, Manchester City 0. Johnson with the corner from the left into the edge of the 6-yard box, which is headed goalwards by O'Shea. 7 yards out, 8 yards out, but straight at Ederson, who is able to catch it.
I mean, the worry for Manchester City is he's completely free. Nobody challenges him at all. I mean, Ruben Diaz tries to. He's a bit late because he's in that central role, the 6-yard box, playing in that zonal area. And O'Shea's outside the box, like you said, about 7 yards out, free header. And they're very fortunate. He heads it straight at Ederson.
But they were real moments of encouragement for Ipswich Town, who weathered the storm. Manchester City could easily be in front, should be in front. They're not, and Ipswich have had those chances. Remains goalless here. Gvardiol now to Kovacic, and again we are back to the pattern of a large part of the opening 25 minutes of this match, with Manchester City little passes around. I'm sure you're familiar with the drill. Halfway inside the Ipswich half, as Akanji, little one to Kovacic, very congested through the middle. De Bruyne helps it out to the left here, where Doku is able to keep possession. Doku then back to Kovacic, right-footed ball from Kovacic, looking for Mateus Nunes, heads it back to Foden, slips slightly, and in that slip, that meant that Cayusta could move in and clear it away downfield to Ederson, who keeps it in on the far side. So still 0-0. And it is now full time in the WSL at West Ham. So Hale Sahi,
where it's finished, West Ham 0, Chelsea 5. So Chelsea remain unbeaten at the halfway stage of the season. Today's 3 points, they were never in doubt from the 11th minute when Makaria put them in front. From there, John, it was a team contest for goal of the day, and Chelsea on this form, they look destined for the title. Full time here, West Ham 0, Chelsea 5.
And there is one other match in the WSL today, and it's the Manchester Derby as well, which is on Sports Extra later from 6:30. So while on 5 Live, when 6:06 is on, the Manchester City Manchester United match will be on Sports Extra, and all the highlights as well on the women's football show tonight, which is after match of the day. Here is Doku now into the penalty area, ball through to De Bruyne, turns, crosses it, Foden shoots and scores. Took it down brilliantly, Phil Foden, with his back to goal. That was deft footwork from the England international. His 8th goal of the season, his 4th in his last 3 matches. Manchester City are in front, and Phil Foden is in the groove.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant play for Manchester City down his left-hand side initially. De Bruyne and Doku combine really well. One-touch football, the cross into the box. I tell you what, Foden's still got a lot to do. As he gets the ball, he takes a really nice touch, changes his direction, and is able to just slot it into that near-post area. Really good goal. And they deserve it. They deserve it. They had some best chances, haven't they, Manchester City? On this occasion, it's Foden who makes no mistake from about 6 yards out.
Yeah, quick and sharp from Phil Foden. He's struggled this season. You know, we can't hide that fact in the first half of the season, but that is much more like him.
Yeah, I mean, he takes the ball with his left. He's turned half away from the goal because it's slightly played behind him. His touch is excellent. Pops back out in front of him. The connection may not have been the purest, however, it was enough, and it guided it into the corner past Walton and goal.
And created by Kevin De Bruyne, even though it wasn't quite where he wanted it, was it? But he also was able to adjust quickly and was able to cross from the left to Foden on the edge of the area. And even though he was surrounded by blue, you know, Foden's so quick of mind.
Yeah, I mean, they had the control of the ball. I mean, initially from Doku. Doku's pass to De Bruyne in a really tight area. De Bruyne's touch was excellent. He had players around him to find Foden, and Foden, like I said, the touch from behind him.
Delap at the other end will try a shot. Moving from left to right, eventually onto his right foot, and from the angle, 20 yards out, but it was close enough to Ederson.
I mean, he's a long way out. He's outside the 8-yard box. He's on the right-hand side, past where the D is. He's using his right foot, so he's even further away when he's striking the ball, and it's just not enough. Edison makes it look really simple because he uses his footwork really well, gets behind it and scoops it up. Not enough to beat a goalkeeper of his quality from that distance.
Well, City could easily have already been in front, but now they are with Phil Foden. That's his 8th goal of the season. He's now got 5 in the Premier League, and in the Premier League now for Foden, that is 5 goals in his last 6 appearances. And City causing problems again, but it bounces off Haaland, and in the end played back by Godfrey to Walton, who is able to clear towards the halfway line. So that, I think, Mark, that is officially Phil Foden in form. 5 goals in his last 6 Premier League appearances.
Well, I would consider that in form, yeah, absolutely. No, he's certainly come back to life, hasn't he, Phil Foden, exactly when Manchester City have needed him.
Yeah, there were too many players who weren't at their best for a whole variety of reasons, and more players who were not available at all because of the various injuries. But for Manchester City, that goal there was much more like them. Here is Kovacic now to Doku. Manchester City already 1-0 up. Doku into the penalty area, and then back to Foden on the edge of the box. Square from him. Kovacic shoots low and in. It's 2-0 now. And Manchester City scored twice in 3 minutes and have got a grip on this. Ipswich fancied their chances, but Manchester City have gone bang, bang, and it's Ipswich 0, Manchester City 2.
Yeah, he's absolutely smashed it from the outside of the box, right in the middle of the D. I tell you what, as the ball gets played in, Phil Foden just casually lays it off to him, and Kovacic runs onto it and hits it with full force, and it just rockets into the back of the net. It's a fantastic strike along the ground, gave Walton no chance. A lot of players in front of him. The pace of it and the direction of that corner just beats the goalkeeper.
So 2-0 to Manchester City, and before the restart, Kieran McKenna has called across his captain, Sam Morsey, and at the same time, Pep Guardiola has called across Kevin De Bruyne. So there were clear instructions from the two managers.
Yeah, Kovacic has been involved in everything for Manchester City so far. I mean, his passes initially, that through ball to Haaland when he missed that one-on-one, Walton makes a big save. Lead-up plays, he's always the one on the ball in midfield, looking for those simple passes, sometimes really direct passes. He's just so cool and calm in possession, and it's a really, really good strike. It was going quicker. The further it went away, it was flying into the back of the net.
Indeed it did. Half an hour played, and those 2 goals have made it Ipswich 0, Manchester City 2. And it would appear, although I was commentating last night on Arsenal 2-0 up, when I thought, well, they're on the way to victory against Aston Villa, but here against Ipswich in the relegation zone, this would be a major surprise now, even with what's happened to Manchester City this season, if the champions don't go on to win this. And you can hear their songs from the City supporters, I'm sure, in the background, going down with United, who have lost 3-1 today. If you weren't listening earlier, our first 5 live Premier League commentary match, Manchester United 1, Brighton 3. Here is Godfrey, and then Johnson to Hutchinson, and across to Cayusta, who has to play it back to Burgess, who finds the pass to Leif Davis. Jack Clark's available further on. Clark comes back across the corner of the penalty area, delivers it to Davis, who doesn't cross yet. He plays it back to Clark, and then Clark clips a ball that is behind Godfrey and will take him back towards the halfway line. And it feels like the momentum of this attack has gone. Manchester City are very much back in position, and Morsey, crossfield pass from him to Hutchinson, who's pulled out towards the right hand side here. Johnson makes a run, but Hutchinson keeps possession, which I think is wise. I think Johnson might have gone offside. Hutchinson goes for the byline, pulls the ball across. Then it's turned by Cayusta. Davis back to Cayusta again, trying to get onto his right foot, runs across the edge of the D, and then Morsey under pressure uses Burgess out again to the left to Davis. Clark and Davis are the 2 more of the Socks Down brigade, those 2 together. Davis rather lamely goes down trying to win a free kick, and the ball deflects away behind for what the referee says is a goal kick for Manchester City, who lead by 2-0.
Yeah, Manchester City hustled well there. Their movement was really good. Every time the ball went wider, they shuffled out. Next player was along the line, moved out, closed the ball down, back across again. Haaland was back doing some defensive duties as well. There's a big difference in this Manchester City side, certainly in defence.
Got a couple of latest scores from the Champions Cup Rugby Union in the 3:15 kickoffs. In Pool 1, it's Toulouse 66, Leicester 12, and also in Pool 3, Saracens 24, Castres 29. 3:15 kickoffs those. This was a 4:30 kickoff here as Johnson felt he should have won a free kick halfway inside the Manchester City half, but the referee's not interested in that. And here is Kovacic, the man who scored the second goal to double the lead for Manchester City. That's 4 for the season now for Mateo Kovacic. And after all of the struggles, as Gundogan, I think he was fouled, but the referee waves on the advantage. Haaland to Kovacic. Kovacic in the centre circle, out here to the left. De Bruyne, Doku making a run. De Bruyne back to Kovacic. Kovacic approaching the D, opens his body, gives it to Mateus Nunes. He beats Davis. Left-footed ball in, too close to Walton, who's able to catch.
Yeah, he really needed Haaland to make that run to that near post area. He just was stationary about 7 yards out. Haaland, I'm not sure what he was waiting for. Maybe he didn't realise the cross when he went too early, and he didn't feel he was going to get it, and it was an easy take in the end for Walton.
Talking about going down with United, the last time Manchester City were here for a Premier League match was also a long time ago, almost a quarter of a century. It was back in 2001. On that day, Manchester City lost here, Joe Royal's Manchester City, and they were relegated that day. And they took an early lead in that match, or they took a lead in the match. The great Sean Gota scored the goal, but Ipswich got a couple of late ones. Matt Holland, who's actually just sitting over to our left, was one of the Ipswich goal scorers. And City were relegated. I'm sure younger listeners will barely believe it. Davis crossing from the left for Ipswich, but that's too close to Edison, who's able to come and jump and catch it at the near post.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the most difficult attempt to get the ball across into the box in a dangerous area for Leif Davis, but it's 3 times now he's got the ball in, and it's been Edison who's been able to come out and claim those crosses. That's what I've been on about. He's got the ability, he's got a really good cross. He's just got to get it further away from the goalkeeper. He's got to give his teammates a chance to get on the end of it.
Ipswich 0, Manchester City 2. So those 2 goals have rather deflated things in the home sections as Manchester City try to play it out from the back. Foden, they go back into the right back area, and then Diaz hits a longer pass and out they come up towards Haaland, the high kicking Haaland. He must feel like, well, I was going to say $1 million, but probably for Erling Haaland with the new contract, that's probably loose change. Here is Guardiola coming forward for City, left-footed ball across the box. Foden takes that down. Foden then moves away from Davis, found a little bit of space for himself. Foden clips it across to De Bruyne, right foot shot, but over the top of Walton and also over the top of the bar above him by a couple of feet.
Yeah, it was like a real snapshot, wasn't it? He takes the touch outside the box to the left-hand side of the D and takes the touch into the box, and he's just really launches himself into the shot. Very little back left. He's trying to get real power through the ball, and unfortunately just gets a little bit too much uplift on it, and it sort of swerves over the crossbar.
So 2-0 it is to Manchester City. It's probably worth repeating, of course, they did have a 2-goal lead away from home in the Premier League this week on Tuesday night at Brentford, and I think that probably explains why they look as though they're in the mood here. 2-goal lead, they look as though they want to make it 3, 4 and as many as possible to sort of try and wash all of this bad stuff out of their hair.
Well, I think that's the way City have always played, isn't it? They just keep going. They don't want to stop. They keep playing the way they play. They don't look to go back and see to set their stall and be more defensive orientated. They look to continue to try and push teams, break teams down and continue to score goals. Yep.
It is a 5-match unbeaten run for Manchester City now after the last of the defeats, that extraordinary run that they were on, Manchester City, when they lost 9 out of 12 in all competitions. But this much more like them. 2-0 through Foden and Kovacic's first half goals. De Bruyne, now he could easily have got in on the act. Back to Doku then back to De Bruyne, he's got some space, that's dangerous, in comes the ball, only half cleared by Burgess, back to De Bruyne, and he uses the available Doku, the two Belgians together, back to De Bruyne, left-footed cross to the back post, which is headed up and over his own crossbar by Burgess for a Manchester City corner. Dangerous, those two.
Yeah, there's combination work again from Doku, and De Bruyne down his left-hand side is excellent. That was what created the problems initially, obviously, with the first goal. Now, again, with these two opportunities, as he whips that ball across the 6-yard box, Kevin De Bruyne, Cameron Burgess is tightly marking Haaland, and he's the one that then throws himself that clearance. He kind of gets a half clearance, like you mentioned, and then in the end deals with the header that comes across and gives away a corner.
Yep, corner that De Bruyne himself is going to take. Uses Doku, back to De Bruyne, although Clark was able to quickly close down the great man, Kevin De Bruyne. They're just singing his name. Foden playing it in right over, from an angle, over everyone actually, and through and behind for a goal kick. So Ipswich Town 0, Manchester City 2. Yes, there will be a 606 on 5 Live later, the UK's most popular football phone-in. We'll tell you at half-time when the lines will be open, but it is Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton back together today. All of the details on the earlier matches you'll be able to read about on the football pages of the BBC Sport website and app, and the headlines on Match of the Day 2 tonight. And we will be hearing from Ange Postecoglou at half-time, as well as Ruben Amorim as well, and somebody else whose name escaped me for a moment, but now I remember it was David Moyes, isn't it, after his first win as the Everton manager. They've got 20 points now, Everton. Ipswich currently on 16, so Ipswich level on points with Wolves, but obviously here there is the potential for Ipswich's goal difference to take a bit of a knock.
Producers are worth their weight in gold, aren't they, John?
I beg your pardon. Yes, Haaland, and then Gundogan with a touch which takes it out of play for a throw-in. Yes, of those 3 names that were mentioned, my brain was only capable of remembering 2 of them. Here is Godfrey, who's going to take this throw halfway inside the Ipswich half, hurls it for Delap, who just headed it into the path of Gundogan, and then Akanji is able to play it all the way back to Ederson. Akanji sees Clark coming across to Diaz. Godfrey's able to head it away, but Kevin De Bruyne, who's epitomising this Manchester City performance, he's in the mood, they're in the mood. Doku back to De Bruyne. De Bruyne pulls it back. Foden forces it in. It's a second goal for Foden. It's a third for Manchester City, and again it's the left flank for Manchester City, creating mayhem. Doku, De Bruyne, and Foden's in again. It's Ipswich Town 0, Manchester City 3 now.
Yeah, brilliant again down this left-hand side for Manchester City. Doku's ball through to De Bruyne. It's the same run again, time and time again. I think it's about 4 times now De Bruyne's been down that left-hand side, with Doku playing the ball in behind the lines. And then De Bruyne takes his touch, looks up and finds, of course, Phil Foden making that same run across to the near post. This time, he doesn't have to take a touch. He's just have to open up and slot it in. And Walton does really, really well. He's a little bit unfortunate, almost makes us a brilliant save. It just squirms underneath him.
Yeah, Foden from close range, and he was 3 yards away from him, struck it well enough on his left foot under the goalkeeper's body, who, as you say, Mark, got a hand to it, didn't he? But there was enough force on it to find its way underneath him and rolling over the line into the goal.
Yeah, he's only like 3-4 yards away from him as well, isn't he? He's making that run as a cutback. The goalkeeper's in the near post. He turns and swivels and tries to make the block, but Phil Foden, just with the right power on it, is just enough to squirm over the line.
Yeah, Foden getting into the right places, as I said there, in the build-up to the goal. I mean, De Bruyne looks much more like he looks like a fully fit Kevin De Bruyne, doesn't he? The energy's there, the movement.
It's interesting because it's almost like I'm expecting the other way around. I'm expecting De Bruyne to play the ball in behind to Doku, and Doku using his pace to get down that touchline and whip those balls in. But every time it's been the reverse. It's Kevin De Bruyne. I don't know what he thinks he is. Maybe he thinks he's like 5 years younger, but he's showing it today. He's been absolutely brilliant down this left-hand side.
Yeah, 33 years old now. He's closing in on 200 assists for Manchester City. It's just ridiculous.
He's an incredible player. I mean, obviously he's had his injury issues. He hasn't been at his best at times recently.
Here he is again, finding space, passing it forward on the volley to Foden. Foden then trying to return the compliment to Haaland, but he mishit that. He overhit it. He got it all wrong, frankly, but having already scored 2 goals today, we'll let that one go, will we?
Well, Haaland's quick, but he's not that quick. I mean, he's absolutely nailed that pass, didn't he? Like I was saying, Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, what a player he is and what a player he's been through throughout his career. He's a joy to watch, and when he's in this sort of form, his relationship with Doku down his left-hand side has been outstanding. Look, you could say, well, Godfrey, O'Shea, Johnson maybe should be doing better with it, but I think most defence would struggle against these two players in this sort of form.
Ipswich 0, Manchester City 3. Pep Guardiola down in front of us just steps out of his coaching area and slaps hands with Doku. So that is a ringing endorsement from the Manchester City manager, isn't it?
I'm going to call it a high five. Side five.
He clearly has done what Guardiola told him to do before the game, Doku, and that's what City want to see from him, isn't it? End product from Doku.
Well, yeah, an involvement. So, he's not getting the credit for the assist or anything like that, but obviously with that, Pep Guardiola understands the important role that Doku's played in each of those opportunities down this left-hand side, and the 2 goals that Phil Foden scored. His combination work with De Bruyne, like I said, has been outstanding.
Rugby Union latest in the Champions Cup. It is Saracens 24, Cashed 32. Oh, that's the full-time score, that is it. So that's the full-time score. Saracens 24, Cashed 32. And Toulouse 80, Leicester 12. And that also full-time score. 12 tries scored by Toulouse in that Champions Cup pool match. Very one-sided here now as well in terms of the scoreline, and Foden, who's on a hat-trick, wriggles away, tries to play it through, it hit Burgess, bounded down, and then Foden's after it again, but Burgess is able to get a toe on that to poke it away out of play for a throw on the far side. And with the 2 goals that Foden has scored now, that means that he's got 9 for the season. That is 6 in 6 Premier League appearances for Phil Foden, and this is a scoreline, Mark, that would take Manchester City up to 4th in the Premier League table. It has been comprehensively their first half. Ipswich have had their moments, but not much more than that. And it looks as though they're going to stay exactly where they are in the relegation zone as Kieran McKenna walks away, quick steps from him towards the tunnel in the corner to our right. And Pep Guardiola, well, that must be as satisfying a half of football as he's seen his team play in some little while.
Without a doubt, I think they've been very, very good. Yeah, they've had some big chances. They could have found themselves ahead by a larger margin. Yes, Ipswich had a few chances on the counter attack, but nothing enough to really concern Manchester City. And I think the combination play of Doku, De Bruyne, Foden, outstanding. De Bruyne's got 2 assists, Foden's got 2 goals and an assist as well. And like I said, Doku's involvement in that was exceptional.
Yep, and in those moments, Ipswich Town, they couldn't live with the champions, and that's why we've got a score at half-time here, a rather subdued Portman Road of Ipswich 0, Manchester City 3.
John, Mark, thank you for the time being. We'll be back, of course, for second half commentary. We've got loads of reaction to get through to the games in the Premier League this afternoon. Everton 3, Tottenham 2, Manchester United beaten 3-1 at home by Brighton, and Nottingham Forest 3, Southampton 2. So we have got Ruben Amorim, Ange Postecoglou, David Moyes all on the way after the news on 5 Live with Alison Hughes.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon. Israel says 3 female hostages released by Hamas in Gaza are now back in Israeli territory after being held for 15 months. It's part of a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, which came into force after a delay shortly before 9 o'clock this morning. This first phase of the agreement, which is scheduled to last for 6 weeks, will see the exchange of 33 Israeli hostages and hundreds of Palestinian detainees. The women who've been freed today are Emily Damari, a 28-year-old British-Israeli citizen, Romy Gonen and Doron Steinbacher. They'll be taken to a hospital on the outskirts of Tel Aviv later this evening. Our correspondent Jonah Fisher, who's there, says they're all likely to need medical treatment.
Emily Damari, for example, she's the British-Israeli national who was taken from kibbutz Kfar Aza in the Hamas attack on that kibbutz. Now, there were reports at the time that she'd been injured, in her leg and on her hand, and that had been a gunshot injury. So, obviously it's 15 months later, but it's very unlikely that she will have received anything approaching decent medical care inside Gaza during that period while being held by Hamas.
Stephen Brisley is the brother-in-law of Eli Sharabi, who's still being held hostage by Hamas. He says the release of the three women is a bittersweet moment for families like his.
Every hostage family primarily wants their own relative back. So, of course, there is an element of disappointment and sadness that it's not Ellie's turn at this stage. However, all of us hostage families are a member of a wider family, of a fraternity brought about by horrific circumstance. We feel each other's sorrow, but we also feel each other's joy.
Since the ceasefire came into force this morning, thousands of Palestinians who'd been forced to leave their homes because of the conflict have begun returning to Gaza, carrying tents and clothes. Many will arrive to find their homes have been destroyed and that the bodies of friends and family remain in the rubble. Our Gaza correspondent Rushdie Abalouf has been watching social media footage of a man in the strip.
He was almost crying. He said the joy that we are experienced this morning very quickly turned into a very sad moment when he saw his house is completely destroyed. He even can't access his house because the road that leads to his house was completely blocked with rubble. I mean, the amount of destruction is something that Gaza never seen before.
As Palestinians begin trying to salvage what they can in Gaza, hundreds of trucks carrying aid have entered the territory. Jalan Waba Abdelmajid, who's a diplomat for the Palestinian Authority, says many Gazans are feeling relief.
It's normal for the ordinary people to feel that they are happy because they will not anymore hear the fire jets. They will not think about the killing on every second of their life. They will be worried about their life now.
Speaking a short time ago, President Biden said he hoped life could begin to return to normal.
Hundreds of trucks are entering Gaza as I speak. They're carrying assistance for civilians who suffered enormously from the war that Hamas started on October 7, 2023. The guns in Gaza have gone silent. This was the deal that I outlined for the world back in May 31st. I've worked in foreign policy for decades, and this is one of the toughest negotiations I've been part of.
But some aren't happy with the way the ceasefire has been handled. Israel's far-right National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, and two other ministers from his party have resigned because they oppose the deal. However, the party says it won't try to bring down Benjamin Netanyahu's government. Elsewhere, the former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell, who was his shadow chancellor, are understood to be at a police station in central London to be interviewed under caution. Officers from Scotland Yard are investigating allegations that pro-Palestinian protesters breached the conditions set out for a demonstration yesterday.
The Champions League. Right here on BBC Radio 5 Live. On Tuesday at 5:45.
Monaco versus Aston Villa.
And at 8.
Liverpool versus Lille.
Shalana begins his run-up. Left-footed, sends the goalkeeper the wrong way.
And on Wednesday at 8.
PSG versus Manchester City.
And watch highlights of every single match with Match of the Day, Wednesday night on BBC iPlayer.
The Champions League. Listen live. Ask your smart speaker
to play BBC Radio 5 Live.
This is 5 Live Sport.
With Steve Crossman.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
OK, Ipswich 0, Manchester City 3, half-time in the Premier League, second half commentary on the way. By the time we get there, you'll have had all of the day's football scores and some great reaction as well. Starting here, Manchester United beaten 3-1 by Brighton at Old Trafford, so that's now 4 out of their last 5 Premier League home games that they've lost. Here's Ruben Amorim with strong words in his post-match press conference.
It's hard to explain. We have to acknowledge the moment and not going around the problem. Everybody here is underperforming. no matter what the circumstances, we are underperforming. And we have to accept that. It's unacceptable to lose so many games for any club in Premier League. Imagine Manchester United. So it's a really hard moment, but we have to continue. We have to continue. There is no other way. We need to suffer and continue. In 10 games in Premier League, we won 2. I know that. Imagine what is this for a fan of Manchester United. Imagine what is this for me. So we are getting a new coach that is losing more than the last coach. I have full knowledge of that. Like I said, I'm not going to change, no matter what. And I know we can succeed, but we need to survive this moment because I'm not naive. And I know that we need to survive now. So we are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we have to acknowledge that and to change that. So here you go, your headlines.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. 08085 909 693 606 once we're done at Portman Road. Robbie Savage is with us. Hi, Rob.
I love his honesty.
I like the way that he reinforced it, as if people wouldn't know that would be a massive headline. The worst Manchester United team ever. Thoughts?
Well, it's not, is it? Because didn't they go down in the 70s? Probably the worst team in the Premier League. Love his honesty. He's not going to change. I think we'll be having a lot of calls about Ruben Amorim, Manchester United, and Ange Postecoglou and Spurs.
Can you be too honest though, Robbie, or not?
Can you be too honest?
Do you know what I mean? Like, even though I think what you just said is bang on. Lots of Man United fans will think, well, Premier League era, of course, it's the worst Manchester United team. But there's knowing it and being right and saying it.
Well, I think everybody's thinking it and everybody's saying it, and you look at the group. The big thing is the 3-4-3. So I think it's the manager's responsibility to get the best out of those players. Listen, I'm not. If Chris was on now, he said, "Are you comparing yourself to Ruben Amorim?" Listen, at Macclesfield, Steve, we have to win every game, right? We do. It's as simple as that. At these levels, we're a huge football club, and the biggest games for us, Steve, are not the top of the table clashes, because everybody wants to beat us. It's the ones where you're thinking, right, subconsciously, everybody's going to that game thinking you'll win the game.
Yeah.
And as a manager, you have to make sure those are the games which you concentrate in. Those are the games you have to win when you're at a massive football club. You can go to Liverpool and get a draw, beat Arsenal in the FA Cup, go to Man City and win. Those games take care of themselves. It's the games like Brighton at home. Who, by the way, Brighton, I think they've won 8 out of 15 Premier League meetings against the two sides. So, it's these games. Southampton, they were poor for large periods. So the manager knew what he was coming into. He knew what he was taking on. He knew the group. Yep. The 3-4-3 I don't think suits him, and he's not going to change. So it's up to the manager to get the best out of those players. And it's about results. And again, it's as a manager, Steve, it's about results. And would you take a 1-0 ugly win going against your principles? Of course you would. I don't get it. Listen, if I'm losing games, Steve, I know for a fact I'd have to change and tinker with it and go against my principles, because it's a results business. And listen, I'm all for philosophies and principles and everything and getting to where you want to get to, but doing well with Sporting in a league where you're expected to win more games than not, coming to a Manchester United side who Eric Ten Hag won 2 trophies with a really poor group, you have to change. Sure, I don't get it, Stephen. I don't get it. Listen, I'm sure there's going to be lots to talk about. I'm sure Chris, will be excited about 606. Ange Postecoglou Spurs, what a win for Everton. Manchester United, what a win for Brighton. Ipswich 3-0 down. It's our City back. Oh, there you go, Steve.
08085 909 693. Thanks, Rob. Great stuff. Robbie Savage there. He'll be with Chris Sutton for 606 soon as we're done at Portman Road. So, 6 without a win for Tottenham, beaten 3-2 at Everton. First win back in charge for David Moyes. Spurs are 15th. Here's Ange Postecoglou.
Look, it's obviously another disappointing result for us, and obviously it's the first half we didn't really have any control of the game in terms of maintaining some shape and organisation, and that's a bit on me because obviously we had to change the team a fair bit today in our sort of structure, and everything capitalised on it, and we gave ourselves a sort of mountain to climb, but to be fair to the players, they kept going and unfortunately just fell short at the end.
You say it was on you, Ange. Would you do anything differently if you could play the game again?
In the context of what we have available at the moment, there wasn't much we could do, to be honest. we had to sort of try and fit 11 fit players in the team. Richie was good when he came on, but we couldn't start with him, and like I said, he literally left us with 11 fit players. So I tried to sort of come up with something that will hopefully steer us through that, but it didn't work.
You spent quite a lot of time at the end of the game, as the players did, over towards the fans who travelled, thanking them. I was just wondering kind of what that message coming from them was like towards you, and how you feel about that.
Look, they're disappointed. They've got every right to be disappointed, and you've got to accept that. You've got to accept the fact that right now the responsibility sort of lies with me, and you have to accept the fact that what we're delivering at the moment is not good enough, and the supporters are still sticking by us, which is important, and we've got to get through this.
Ange Postecoglou with Adam Cottier. A couple of the Spurs players at the end of the game were kind of trying to ask the Tottenham fans to sort of maybe direct their frustrations at them rather than the manager. Certainly that's how it looked. Can things carry on like this, Spurs fans? 08085 909 693. Lines now open for 606. What about David Moyes, though? First win back in charge of Everton. They're now 4 points clear of the relegation zone and only one place behind Tottenham. Here is David Moyes.
If you said to me before the game, would you take a 3-2 win against Tottenham, I'd have said yes, thank you very much, and walked away. I mean, you hear a lot about style and how people play and what they do. I mean, but ultimately, we could have played great today and lost, and it wouldn't have mattered to us. We had to get the points. But I thought we played very, very well in the first half. To be 3-0 up against Tottenham, and maybe we're doing ourselves a disservice because we could have been more up, I think, in the first half. So, really good. Always the worry is how you're going to go over the line at the end, and it became very tight, but thankfully we just about did.
You've said ahead of this you were looking and working really hard on the attacking play for Everton, and you'd also said about players taking responsibility. So with that in mind, how pleased are you that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has got on the score sheet today? Yeah, I'm really pleased for Dom, because look, he got 3 chances in midweek, which might have got one as might have got as a draw. He's probably had 3 maybe today, so I think that he's beginning to get confidence back. But I think more importantly, he played like a number 9 today. Won headers, left a bit on the centre halves, made them know that it was there. That's a bit more like I think centre forwards at this football club are expected to do. So sometimes you forget a wee bit about it. But I thought Dom played really well today and done a lot of good things for the team. And he got away once and he miscontrolled it, and then he'd won to make it 4-0, which he'd got it under control. So I'm hoping that those bits will come again. But hopefully that first goal will give him big confidence.
David Moyes. Other Premier League game finished: Nottingham Forest 3, Southampton 2. Leeds are top of the Championship after beating Sheffield Wednesday 3-0. Women's Super League full-time: Spurs 1, Leicester 0, Arsenal 5, Crystal Palace 0, West Ham 0, Chelsea 5. The Manchester derby is a 6:45 kick-off in the Scottish Cup. Rangers beat Fraserburgh of the 5th tier 5-0. Wraith Rovers won 2-1 at Falkirk after extra time in the Scottish Women's League Cup semi-finals. These are one-legged games. Hibs 1, Aberdeen 0 with 20 minutes to go. Celtic 0, Rangers 2 with 25 minutes to go. Rugby Union Champions Cup: Bordeaux 66, Sharks 12. So Ulster go through to the knockout stages. Toulouse 73, Leicester 12, Saracens 24, Cast 29. So Saracens and Leicester will both have away ties in the last 16. Sale versus Toulon kicks off at 5:30. And Tyrrell Hatton won the Dubai Desert Classic. You're up to date with all of today's sport. We can get back to Portman Road. Second half commentary then of Ipswich against Manchester City with Mark Schwarzer and correspondent John Murray.
Yes, the Ipswich Town players have been out in the clinging cold for a little while. We're still waiting for Manchester City. So the Ipswich team doesn't look as though Kieran McKenna's going to make any changes. Walton, the goalkeeper. The 3 central defenders are Godfrey, O'Shea and Burgess. Johnson and Davis, the wing-backs. Cayusta and Morsey. And then Hutchinson, Clark and Liam Delap. They're just trying to keep themselves warm out there, Mark Schwarzer. And I think one thing that we should mention, 3-0 down here. I touched on it at the end of the first half. Ipswich have got to think about their goal difference, haven't they? They don't want a heavy defeat and the effect that can have on the goal difference.
No, they do have to think about it. But again, I don't think it'll necessarily change the way they play. They'll continue to try and do what they did in the first half. They'll try and be a little bit obviously more effective on that counter-attack. I thought delivering the box wasn't as good as it could have been. That's something that's been missing in that first 45 minutes. And for Manchester City, on the other hand, goal difference makes a massive difference as well. Yeah. With the 3 points today, depending on how many got them in, they're already in 4th position. Obviously, Chelsea still have to play. But, if it's all about both sides, goal difference, scoring goals, rhythm, momentum. Ipswich don't want to be hammered here either, because that could affect them going forward.
Very much. Manchester City players are out now, they're in position. No changes for them either. And Ipswich are about to get the second half underway. And it's a very good point you make, Mark, because with this 3-0 scoreline, that means that Manchester City would be in fourth ahead of Newcastle on goals scored. So the goal difference with Newcastle at the moment is plus 12, whereas down at the bottom, Ipswich are looking at, well, currently minus 20, whereas Wolves above them are minus 17. So goal difference, as Mark Schwarzer correctly says, important at both ends. So referee Sam Barrett gets the second half underway. Ipswich with an attack that is cleared downfield, and Walton goes long with Kevin De Bruyne approaching the penalty area. But Doku battling for it. It's taken up by Kovacic. Manchester City already on the move. De Bruyne into the area, pulls it across looking for Phil Foden, but Davis was able to come across, and it bounces off Doku and all the way through for a goal kick.
Yeah, it's good defending in the end. De Bruyne makes a good run down the left-hand side. Once again, he cuts it back, and it goes in between Haaland and Foden. So it's not quite reached either of them. Leif Davis sees the opportunity to sneak in between the two and make the clearance.
So the Manchester City team is Ederson in goal, at the back Akanji, Diaz and Gvardiol. Then Mateus Nunes on the right, Doku on the left, Kovacic and Gundogan in the middle, then Foden and Kevin De Bruyne with Haaland through the middle. He's just had the one chance, hasn't he, Haaland, to mark the week of the big contract, and Walton made a very good save with the score 0-0 at the time. He was clean through the Norwegian as Ipswich played up towards Delap, who bounces off Akanji. He is strongly built, isn't he? And then Akanji has a go back at him, brings him down, and it's a free kick to Ipswich.
That's what Liam Delap's all about, though, isn't it? That physical contact. He's someone that loves to really go at the defenders and make sure they know that he's around, that they're in for a game. And equally, Akanji just matches it and gives him a little bit of a shove.
Yeah, his reputation is really enhanced, though, isn't it, by the way that he's looked, the way that he's played, his all-round game, really. Delap, and that's a poor pass from Burgess, straight out of play, down in front of us for a throw-in to Manchester City. They signed him for around about £20 million in the summer from Manchester City. I would suggest that he's worth significantly more than that now, Liam Delap. Mateus Nunes is going to take this throw. Comes off the foot of Cayusta, and then Morsey, and then Hutchinson. He's bright as well, and he was just caught there by Kovacic, then ran into Gvardiol, but it's a free kick. Referee's brought it back for the free kick.
Yeah, Murray Hutchinson, he's a really exciting player. Sometimes you feel like you need more from him. He's got so much ability. He's so good on the ball. He just glides past people, and then he'll take a too big a touch and lose the ball. There's just not enough end product at this moment in time, but he's a real enjoy. I really enjoy watching him play. Watched him play lots of times this season so far.
Yeah, and he's adaptable as well, isn't he? The various positions that he can play, the attacking positions. Clark, nice, helps it forward. Ipswich, blue shirts, white shorts, blue socks. Delap on the move. Here is Hutchinson. Hutchinson now to the right-hand side to Johnson. Ederson makes the save, and it's a scrambling effort, but he's got it. It wriggled away from him. Well struck by Johnson, actually arriving in from the right-hand side, and Ederson was able to parry it and grab it.
Yeah, it's really good play from, firstly, Liam Delap. He does so well on this left-hand side as he cuts inside. He just leaves Ruben Diaz for dead with his play and his layoff across. I think Amari Hutchinson maybe could have let it go initially, could have gone out to Ben Johnson straight away, and then maybe was another chance. Ben Johnson was just a little bit wide. The angle was a little bit acute. And I tell you what, Ederson still makes a very good save.
World Service are back with us. 5 Live from the BBC. And here's Doku into the area. Shot, it's deflected in. It's 4-0. Walton had no chance with that. The shot from the angle, it was a tight angle, but it took a big deflection and swirled past the Ipswich goalkeeper across and into the net. And Ipswich Town 0, Manchester City 4 now.
Yeah, really good finish, really good play from Doku as he cuts inside. He's been obviously a real threat down the left-hand side. He's been provider prior to this. This time he gets a chance to run at the defenders in the box, and he's always a danger because he's running at high speed. He cuts back in on his right foot, and as he lets loose, he gets the luck of a deflection, and I think it bobbles over Walton because of the deflection. Yeah, you can see there, it comes off O'Shea. O'Shea sticks his right foot out and it clips as he hits his right foot out. It bounces then over Walton into that far corner.
Now, is that shot on target? Or is that going to be an own goal, an O'Shea own goal?
I think it's really, really close. It's hard to tell from the angle we are sitting at and the replays we've seen. It's difficult to see whether the shot initially was on target. It's very close. I mean, if it isn't, it's possibly hitting the post.
Yeah, it might have been going wide, so it might be an own goal. We'll have to see what it says, what the Premier League... We'll have to see what the Premier League say about that. I'm going to just delay writing that down, but I can put the number 4 down, certainly. Ipswich Town 0, Manchester City 4, and this now equals their heaviest defeat in terms of a scoreline this season, Ipswich, when they lost here to Newcastle United. And as previously discussed at the start of the second half, Ipswich don't want this to become really messy, but the problem is they're up against the Manchester City side, who these players down there that, well, you know, they look, don't they, as though they've really got a point to make here, to play themselves back into form.
Yeah, they've been really sharp, Man City, in the box. Doku, De Bruyne, Foden, really, really difficult to deal with, and they've taken their chances. They've obviously had that Haaland one-on-one, and then other than that, they've just been ruthless.
Looks as though it's been credited to Jeremy Doku, but we'll as I say, I'd just quite like to see what the Premier League say about that before we commit to that. But big deflection off O'Shea, so Jeremy Doku for the time being is looking at his 6th goal of the season. As I say, he did get a couple of goals against Salford last weekend in the FA Cup, in the mammoth win that they had there, and unless Ipswich are careful, this could become a mammoth one as well. 4-0 now. The Manchester City supporters, many of them, I would suspect, might be going straight on to Paris to watch their team in the Champions League this coming midweek from here in Ipswich. And another chorus of "You're going down with United." We heard from Ruben Amorim at half-time, the Manchester United manager, who had the message that he isn't going to change. Sounds like a familiar phrase, that, for managers. He has a Kanji out to the right-hand side. Lines are open for 606 if you're a Manchester United fan on the way back from Old Trafford. Here's Gundogan now. Gundogan through into the area on the right. De Bruyne clips it across to the back post, headed away by Johnson. Comes out to Doku, who took a heavy touch, and then Johnson blasted it against the body of Doku. I think it struck an arm, not that he could do anything about that. Doku is back in possession, and he tees up Gundogan. Flick from Gundogan, cleared away by Cayusta, and Manchester City go back towards the centre circle and the halfway line.
Yeah, I tell you what, the recycling of the ball from Manchester City has been really, really good. So when they do lose possession, Ipswich very often don't really have much of an outlet. They're trying to just get rid of the ball, clear it, and normally not far enough. And then the second ball, City have been so quick to react.
Manchester City in the all-maroon kit with the white numbers on the back, attacking again. Gvardio's ball flicked forward by Foden. Haaland trying to get there against Godfrey, who went with him all the way to the byline. And in the end, Haaland was, with that persistence, typical persistence, Haaland, they sing his name, and it's a corner to Manchester City from the left-hand side. Contract to 2034, Mark. Just wow, something else, isn't it?
I mean, you know, you can understand it. I mean, he's an unbelievable player. His stats speak for themselves, and I think it just shows you what faith Manchester City have in Erling Haaland moving forward.
They've changed their tune, the Manchester City fans over in that corner. They've changed it to Kevin De Bruyne, because he's right next to them now. They're all in the lower section standing up watching Kevin De Bruyne's corner. It's a poor one to the near post. It's easily hit away downfield on the bounce by Sam Morsey. So Manchester City have got it with their goalkeeper Ederson. Yes, 2034 is the same year as the World Cup in Saudi Arabia. That's how far it is away. I don't know how many US presidents will have gone through by 2034. the inauguration tomorrow, so there'll be lots of coverage of that on 5 Live. And actually, on a serious note, there will be a news special on 5 Live tonight at 8 o'clock. Stefan Powell will have a news special from 8 o'clock after the day's events in the Middle East. There will be live sport, though, as an alternative to that. The Manchester Derby and the Women's Super League will be on Sports Extra. And then after that on Sports Extra, the NFL divisional round. There's commentary on Philadelphia against the LA Rams. The US Open tennis is on during the night. 5 Live tennis breakfast as well, live from Melbourne. And here come Manchester City with Mateus Nunes down the right, who can't keep that in. So it's behind for a goal kick. Ipswich 0, Manchester City 4. So 2 goals for Foden, 1 for Kovacic, 3-0 at half-time. And Jeremy Doku with that deflected goal has added to it in the second period. But this is the sort of performance that Manchester City and Pep Guardiola have been crying out for as they go to Paris for that big game on Wednesday night, that you will hear with us live from the Parc des Princes. Ipswich with Burgess, very nearly passed it straight to De Bruyne inside the penalty area. Fortunately, Morsey was able to arrive. Then it comes in from the left-hand side from Gvardiol, but he's frustrated with himself because he passed it all the way through to Walton, who was able to gather it in the Ipswich goal.
Yeah, what you don't want to be doing is giving Manchester City more opportunities, give them simple opportunities in front of your goal. They've been in ruthless form tonight, and they've got to make sure, Ipswich, that they stay focused and make them at the very least work for any opportunities going forward.
Ipswich with Jack Clark. Kieran McKenna watching as Clark's given it away. He's passed it straight to Doku, and Doku across. Here's the chance for Haaland. It's 5-0. Erling Haaland, fresh from signing that mammoth contract, has now got in on the act here at Portman Road. A hat-trick against Ipswich in August. Now he's on the score sheet here in Suffolk. And Manchester City now are really revelling in it. Ipswich 0, Manchester City 5.
Yeah, poor ball from Jack Clark. I mean, it's been, in his fairness, though, he's on our side of the pitch. He looks to go across field, right on the opposite side, and he doesn't see Doku making that run early. There's a couple of players in front of him. Doku just gambles a little bit, and it's a simple take, lays it square, and Haaland back across the goalkeeper, and a simple finish. You won't get many simpler finishes than that.
The bad news for Ipswich is there's still over half an hour to go, and Manchester City are winning 5-0 with Haaland on his left foot, tucking that ball away past Christian Walton. And that now for Haaland in this below par season, that is 22 goals in all competitions. And in the Premier League, he's breathing down the neck of Mo Salah in the golden goal standing. Salah with 18, now Haaland with 17. So Ipswich, I don't know whether Kieran McKenna is thinking about a change or two, perhaps, but they've got to stem the flow, haven't they? They can't afford this getting any worse. And now Morsey is caught in possession, and De Bruyne finds Haaland into the box to Doku on the left. Doku back to Haaland, left foot shot could save Walton, though they've only half cleared it. Right foot shot, De Bruyne, it's deflected up and lands on the roof of the net. Corner.
You cannot keep giving Manchester City opportunities. I mean, this time Morsey gets dispossessed about 30 yards out, 35 yards out, and City just hit them on the counter. You can't do that. You have to keep the ball. You have to play simple. Do not keep giving them opportunities like they are. They are going to get punished, Ipswich.
Ipswich have got to get a grip on themselves here. Corner is taken from over on the left-hand side. De Bruyne gets it back, clips it in, right foot. Walton comes, gets a punch on it with those black gloves of his, those gauntlets I would call them, and then it comes off the head of Cayusta and bounces behind. Could have cleared that, came off his head. It's another corner to Manchester City. Still got over half an hour to go.
Yeah, they look a little bit like rabbit in headlights at the moment, Ipswich, don't they? They look shell-shocked. I mean, it just made it too easy. I just said before about not giving Manchester City easy opportunities, you know, and they go away and straight away give Haaland the opportunity to make it 5, which he did, and shortly afterwards another opportunity. So Ipswich need to switch on. They need to stem the flow of goals.
Foden takes a short corner, gets it back from Gundogan. Doku's involved as well on the right-hand side, and now again, Gundogan. And the alarm bells really are ringing for Ipswich because City look in a ruthless mood here. And Kevin De Bruyne in a deep lying position now.
Well, even more so, why you can't give the opposition, a team like Manchester City, you can't make it easy for them. And at the moment, Ipswich are making it too easy for them. You've got to try and get down the basics, stay solid. Even if you need to turn City, turn them. Give yourself a bit of breather.
And the other thing as well is, what does it do for the confidence of Ipswich? You know, if they are giving a really good hiding here today, and then Clark's giving it away to Foden. Foden just outside the area, a couple of challenges, half challenges come in. Kovacic, then De Bruyne, first time touch. Gvardiol back across, and Ipswich, that's a break for them. Poor pass from Gvardiol, gave it away, and now Liam Delap can actually take the ball into the Manchester City half. Davis making a run down the line. I see Mubama is going to come on. It's actually going to be a double change for Manchester City, as opposed to changes for Ipswich, and I guess that must be with Paris in mind as well from Pep Guardiola, because this match is won and then some. So Jack Grealish as well coming on, and I think that's James McAtee getting himself ready down below as well. But Ipswich, a bit of relief for them. Johnson back to Hutchinson, who drives it across, and Ederson had to be sharp there at his near post. That might have been creeping in from the tightest of angles, and he's actually juggled it behind, and it's a corner to Ipswich.
Yeah, I mean, look, his positioning was really good. Ederson, I don't think ever, yes, it was on target, but I don't think he was going to be beaten there. He wasn't, obviously. He gets across, it's just his handling in the end, and maybe his momentum probably took him off the pitch. It's good goalkeeping. It is an audacious attempt, one that, I think 99.9% of the time doesn't actually come off.
It's a corner though, and Ipswich are going to make a double change. Tuanzebe's going to come back. Corner then for Ipswich. Davis plays it in, but that's cleared away at the near post, and it bounces into the advertising hoardings of the cobbled stand on the far side of the ground. So Luongo, the great Ipswich servant, Massimo Luongo, another Australian international, Mark, is going to come on. And we're also going to see a debut as well for Jayden Philogene, who's been signed during this window from Aston Villa. So it's going to be mass changes here, Mark. We've got three each.
Yeah, well, I think something had to happen, certainly from an Ipswich perspective. For Pep Guardiola, it's an ideal scenario to be in. Being 5-0 up with still, 28 minutes to play at a minimum. Manchester City can look to take players off, rest them. We can see now Doku, Haaland and Foden are coming off. It's a great opportunity just to give them some rest ahead of a massive game in the Champions League.
Yeah, Haaland, Foden, and who do you say the other one was? Doku?
Yes. Well, it looks like
no,
he is.
De Bruyne.
De Bruyne, sorry, I got that one wrong. He was just slapping hands with everyone. That's why I thought he was coming off as well.
Yeah.
He's not. You're right, De Bruyne.
Well, that absolutely speaks for itself, doesn't it? Those three coming off. But they've had an excellent day. I mean, Haaland's been quietish, but he's got his goal, and he's got a little closer. He's got one goal closer to Salah. That's now 80 Premier League goals in 88 appearances for Manchester City. Goodness knows how many he'll have if he stays to 2034. And the Ipswich changes. Jack Clark. It's a nice round of applause for him. So Philogene coming on. Jayden Philogene signed for around £20 million. They wanted him in the summer, actually, when Villa re-signed him from Hull City, and now they have got him. But he's played in the Champions League this season, and also Ben Johnson is coming off. So Axel Tuanzebe making his return, and the other Ipswich change is going to see Ben Godfrey after his league debut being replaced by the former Manchester United man, Axel Tuanzebe, coming on, having missed the last 9 matches now with a thigh injury. So Tuanzebe comes on the right-hand side of the Ipswich defence. So mass changes. Whether that will stem the Manchester City flow or not, I'm not sure. So now instead of Haaland, we've got the 20-year-old Divin Mubama, the Londoner, the former West Ham man who signed from West Ham during the summer, who did actually score on his debut last weekend. So for Mubama, this is his Premier League debut for Manchester City. And what a time to do it when you're 5-0 up.
They're always great games to come on to as a substitute. I think you can come out there, the team is flying, and you can just slot in, hopefully, do your thing, get it simple, get some good passes under your belt, maybe even get on the score sheet, who knows.
Yes, I saw him last season, you probably did as well, playing for West Ham, England under-20 international. He is a Londoner, as I say, born in Newham, and now here he is making his Premier League debut. And Manchester City in possession on the halfway line. Lines are open for 6:06. If you're at any of the earlier matches, certainly Tottenham supporters again. I thought Ange Postecoglou took rather a different tone in what we heard him say at half time. I felt there was more explanation, which is what the supporters want from an interview with a manager, to explain what's going wrong.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's it was always key. And I think he acknowledges and accepts that circumstances are very, very difficult. They've got such a bad list of or long list of injuries, and obviously, I suppose people do then question, why do you stick to the same philosophy when you haven't got the players to play it? And that's obviously the great debate. And I know Ange, he will never change, as the same as what we heard about Ruben Amorim. He will not change the way they play.
Yep. So 08085 909 693 to talk to Robbie and Chris. Here's Grealish into the action for the first time over on the left-hand side. Gundogan just ran away from him, but Kovacic was there behind him, and Kovacic square from him. We've got 25 minutes to play here at an atmospheric Portman Road, but it's the Manchester City fans who are creating that atmosphere in the main, as Mateus Nunez wins another corner for City. This one from the right-hand side, down in front of the tunnel, where there are blue neon lights down there where the players walk through. It's all got black facings there as well, and an electronic board with the 0-5 written on it, with the two club badges over the top of the image of the famous Suffolk Punch Shire horse, which is part of the emblem of Ipswich Town. So the corner waiting to be taken by McAtee, who, remember, scored a hat-trick last weekend, his first senior hat-trick in the win against Salford. There was talk of him potentially moving on this month for more game time, and he has been getting more game time in recent matches. So McAtee, eventually the referee sorted out a bit of pushing and shoving. McAtee's corner, left-footed in. Walton gets a punch almost underneath the crossbar, with Akanji running across him. Grealish lifts one, just hoists one in to the edge of the penalty area, comes off the head of Morsey. Grealish again gets it down and then plays it back centrally to Kovacic. Grealish, Gvardiol will use Gundogan, and then Kovacic again has a look up. He's in the middle of the half, he goes square to Mateus Nunez, and Manchester City will use Akanji, who plays it across to Diaz. Big lift for Manchester City to have Diaz back as well. And then Akanji to Doku, who's on the right for the time being. McAtee involved. Gundogan comes across, beats the challenge centre field from Luongo quite comfortably. Now the pass to Gvardiol again as Manchester City come forward. It's slightly behind Kovacic. Kovacic then lifts one over the top. McAtee with a header. It's in. Beautifully done by McAtee on the twist. A little touch with his head over the top of Walton and into the net. It's 6-0 Manchester City now here at Portman Road.
Yeah, it's a great little ball over the top. McAtee does his best to keep himself online. I think it's onside, and he's just so cool and calm. He just picks out his spot over the goalkeeper into that far post area. And again, Walton just left in a position where it's so difficult to make a save, and he's outbeaten. He's beaten by another one, 6-0, and they deserve it, Man City. They've been on fire.
James McAtee, after his hat-trick last weekend, now he's scored his first Premier League goal for Manchester City, and we have a scoreline of Ipswich 0, Manchester City 6. Onside?
Yeah, Miles. Kovacic's ball, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Again, McAtee's run is excellent. He's so far onside. He gets in behind Cameron Burgess, and then it's a really good header. It really is. It's in that area where Walton can't come for it, and he's kind of caught in between it, and he's able to then lob it over the goalkeeper.
So Ipswich now in danger of embarrassment, actually, here on their home ground. I mean, I'm careful in using that word, because Manchester City in this sort of form are so good, and they're unfortunate, Ipswich, because of the circumstances. But Davis has now given it away. Mubama, in comes the challenge on him from Luongo. So that was good. That snuffed out, mistakes like that. He's got another couple of substitutes waiting to come on. George Hurst and Jack Taylor are going to come on, and City likewise, Lewis and O'Reilly waiting to join the action as well. But 6-0 now away from home, so it's Ipswich's heaviest defeat this since their return to the Premier League. And Kovacic, the Manchester City supporters doing the Poznan in the stands. It's got that sort of feel to it. Suddenly the good old days are back, Mark, for Manchester City.
Well, I mean, the first half they were very, very good. I mean, they had to work for it, because Ipswich, I don't think, did very much wrong in that first half. Second half, I think Ipswich have been a little bit too easy. They've a bit naive. They've allowed City. They've given City too many opportunities, and their heads have dropped. And from that moment onwards, they've just looked a bit nervy. Their passes have let them down, simple passes, and then they've given Manchester City more and more opportunities as the game's gone on, and you can't do that with a team of this quality and in this form.
Manchester City knocking it around, and really the Ipswich Town supporters rather uncomfortably sitting on their hands almost. Doku back to Akanji, and then Doku again. It's blocked by Davis, but Davis runs into Mateus Nunes. Mateus Nunes now wriggling forward with it. He's got Ipswich players around him. Luongo trying to get back. He was just tugged back by Luongo, and it's a free kick to Manchester City on the right-hand side. Going to see these latest changes now for the two sides. So Rico Lewis is going to replace Kovacic. So Kovacic, who is one of the scorers, and Manchester City have, with the 6 goals, have had 5 different scorers. It was Kovacic earlier who made it 2-0, and Akanji as well coming off at the back. So Kovacic and Akanji, with O'Reilly and Lewis coming on. And for Ipswich, it looks as though Amari Hutchinson, important player for Ipswich, is going to be saved for other challenges, and likewise Delap as well. That doesn't surprise me. Delap he will regularly, Kieran McKenna, substitute Delap.
Yeah, I mean, the role that he takes up, Delap, he's always working his socks off, and as the game goes on, and this sort of game, the way they've played most of the game in their own half, Ipswich, you might as well take him off and save him for another day where they can start afresh and hopefully get to a better result in the end.
Yep, so Delap is off. So George Hurst, the son of David Hurst, who I suspect you'll have played against, Mark, or was he maybe slightly before your time?
I think I did play against him, actually.
Yeah, the third set, so very, very, very good centre forward, goal scorer, mainly for Sheffield Wednesday, played for England as well. But George Hurst, who started out at Sheffield Wednesday, is up front, the number 27 on his shirt. So 6-0 it is. We've had a look at the record books, Mark, and actually it was in my mind that there was the famous 9-0, wasn't there, for Manchester United against Ipswich Town, and other than that they were beaten 10-1 by Fulham. So it's a 9-goal defeat is the biggest margin for them in their league history. At the moment, 6-0 it is, and I suspect that the changes that we've seen here might help Ipswich out in that regard.
Yeah, you would think so. The momentum has changed a little bit, and Manchester City are happier just to sit back a little bit, play the ball at the back as we're seeing right now. Guardiola, Diaz knocking the ball back and forth with Ederson, but they certainly will look to get forward still. And I mean, you're talking about just over 15 minutes of normal time to play. There no doubt will be chances for City going forward.
6-0 it is. Lines open for 606 on 08085 909 693. Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton back together again tonight, and we'll be rounding everything up on the Premier League review tonight, which will appear on your Football Daily feed on BBC Sounds, which you can subscribe to for free. And as well, actually, you'll hear on there the special Dennis Law tribute that we did on Friday night. So that's on the Football Daily feed, as well as our still new The Commentator's View podcast, which I feel almost duty bound to mention, as the ball is headed back by Johnson to goalkeeper Walton, who will overarm it out to the far side, where Johnson turns and plays it back to Walton, and then to Anzebi, who's under pressure from Grealish and actually played the ball off the Manchester City man out of play for a throw-in to Ipswich. 15 minutes to go. 15 minutes. O'Reilly now to Grealish, who did score his first Manchester City goal. Grealish, for over a year, from the penalty spot against Salford last weekend. City change it to the right-hand side. Doku challenged by Davis, but he's still going. Doku square to O'Reilly. O'Reilly on his left foot shoots. That's deflected off to Anzebi across the edge of the penalty area and bounces down here to the left-hand side, where Jaden Philogene is able to play Davis to clear it away, but that's over the top of Hurst, and Manchester City will start again with Lewis in the centre circle, taking it out towards the left-hand side, and then back to Gvardiol, who will use Diaz, who controls it on his right foot. Pep Guardiola shouts out one or two orders, hands deep in his pockets, big thick grey scarf wrapped around his neck. Mateus Nunes, and then rolling the ball back into the Manchester City half, and they will start again. So 6-0 it is, after earlier wins for Nottingham Forest and Brighton at Old Trafford and Everton. David Moyes' first win. Leeds United back top of the Championship after their 3-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday. Rangers and Wraith Rovers through in the Scottish Cup. And all of the Premier League highlights on Match of the Day tonight, as Ruben Diaz hits a long right-footed pass to Anzebi, gets up above Mubama, and then it's cleared away on the edge of the area by Burgess. Philogene now, applause for the intent there from him, as Johnson goes for a big long crossfield pass to Leif Davis, and then Davis slightly behind Hurst. Morsey, they wanted him to have a goal. Luongo will actually play it back. Groans from the home supporters, and now Manchester City are very much back in position. Davis again, Luongo, and then Burgess will roll it to Davis, and then the run has been made by Philogene down into the full-back position, drags it back, couple of nice touches. Luongo, and then Philogene involved again. McAtee trying to get to him, he was shielded there by Morsey, and then Morsey takes possession of the ball on the edge of the area. Philogene back with it, but he's in a more deep-lying position now, and then Ipswich are forced to go further back, and then Burgess gave Davis no chance, but he brilliantly chested it down, and then he's bundled over by Mateus Nunes and wins the free kick. Well played, Davis.
Yeah, they did well. It was a nice little bit of play here from Ipswich. They kept the ball, there was some real intent, really good movement off the ball. They really pushed Manchester City around a little bit, and then in the end, Leif Davis gets past Nunes. Nunes is a player clearly playing out of position. He's not, his strength is trying to defend against a high-flying wing-back, and Davies does really well to win the free kick.
Yeah, he did well, bearing in mind that first pass to him was round about Adam's apple height, and hit at pace as well, but was able to chest it down and make the best of it.
I mean, that would have hit your belly button, John.
It would have taken a silky touch, Mark. Here is the free kick then to be taken from the left-hand side. The Ipswich supporters in the Sir Bobby Robson stand behind that goal haven't had too much to get excited about today. They have had their moments, but 6-0 down. Johnson plays it in, that's headed away. They want Morsey to shoot, which he does, but it's blocked on the edge of the area. Then Luongo plays it back to the right-hand side. Pass comes into the edge of the box, but O'Reilly heads that down, and Ipswich have to go back to Tuanzebe near the halfway line. And I think Manchester City, they're having a breather, and Ipswich are enjoying a bit of possession inside the the Manchester City half. Jack Taylor with the ball in from the right-hand side, but it's too close to Ederson, who's able to catch it. So the score, Ipswich Town 0, Manchester City 6. Do we declare, Mark, that Manchester City are back?
Maybe not quite yet. However, they're a long way on the course to being back, because they've been really good. They really have. And okay, you could argue and say, well, Ipswich haven't really put them under enough pressure. They haven't been at their best, and that is true. They haven't been at their best. But Manchester City were ruthless. They were very ruthless. De Bruyne, Doku first half, Foden, their combination play. Most teams would have struggled to actually stay with them. That's how good they were. And then the second half, yes, Ipswich gave them opportunities, but Man City certainly took them, and that's something they haven't been doing over the last couple of months either.
Yes, unashamedly ruthless, unapologetically ruthless after what they've gone through in the first half of the season. Let me remind you that in the second half of last season, Manchester City in the Premier League went unbeaten. They won their last 9 Premier League matches of the season to win the title for a 4th season in a row, as Ipswich, Burgess's pass is looking for Philogene, but that is played back to Ederson by Diaz, and now McAtee, who's already got in the act with his first Premier League goal for Manchester City. Clever little header it was as well, but loses possession, and Ipswich will come again. Luongo might have won a free kick. Referee says no. Riley, it was a good challenge from him, and Mubama, I think he was being fouled by Jack Taylor, that the referee allows play to continue. Lewis, then Gundogan, and out it goes to the left-hand side. So yes, Manchester City this morning, Mark, were 15 points behind Liverpool, he said. Raised eyebrow emoji. So that's going to become 12 points. But also, Manchester City after this will be 6 points behind Arsenal.
Yeah, I think that's the initial goal, isn't it? To try and get up to that second spot. That's certainly within touching distance. Manchester City, I don't think you can rule them out. I just feel that certainly to finish in the top two, maybe winning the titles, maybe a little bit out of reach. Maybe, I don't know. I'm saying that there's still enough football to be played. I just don't think you can write them off anything.
Doku whips a ball across from the right-hand side. That was cleared away by Burgess. Got a foot to it. I can also tell you, Mark, I was told this morning that the biggest deficit that has ever been overhauled to win a 20-team top flight in England is 13 points. As Manchester City have it with Gvardiol. But of course the other side of that is they would need Liverpool to drop a lot of points. That's what I was just
about to say. I mean, obviously they play each other still, so that obviously could go in the favour of Manchester. They would need to win that, and they still need Liverpool to lose quite a few games between now and the end of the season, which I find difficult to see happening.
Yeah, Liverpool are operating on all fronts.
Oh, they look brilliant. Well. They look brilliant as well, Liverpool. I mean, even when they're not playing particularly well, they still look brilliant in getting the job done.
Yeah. Manchester City might have an extra couple of games in the Champions League in the playoff round. That actually is the target. So we'll be with them. Join us from the Parc des Princes on Wednesday night. Lots of European commentary coming your way midweek on 5 Live. Here's Grealish on the left-hand side. Grealish. Manchester City supporters are really relishing this, actually. They're really enjoying it. There's Gvardiol, little ball through to Lewis. Gundogan now. I think after all of the substitutions we did have that, it certainly interrupted the flow, but Manchester City are just now threatening to get back into the flow again, which is a worry for Ipswich. O'Reilly, the tall O'Reilly with his hair stacked up, plays the ball to the edge of the area. It bounces across into the full-back position where Ipswich clear it. They do. Burgess puts it out of play via a deflection. So the lines are open for 606 08 085 909 693 to talk to Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton. The crowd, not quite the biggest of the season here at Portman Road during this season back in the Premier League. It is 29,841, the official attendance. And I can tell you, Mark, that there is a group of people from Mallorca who are here. who have come over on one of those sort of football trips. When I was walking to the stadium today alongside the River Orwell, I saw this group coming towards me. They're all wearing the same colour hats, these sort of orangey browny hats. So I engaged them in conversation. Turns out they're from a football club in Mallorca, and they must be decent, because they said they were at Brentford's training session on Friday, and one of them that I was talking to was a goalkeeping coach, actually.
Nice.
They went to the Arsenal game yesterday, and now they've come here to Portman Road, and they've seen the champions, Manchester City, put on a show for them. Here is Mateus Nunes, then Ruben Diaz, and Gvardiol, and Lewis now on the left, and Grealish 10 yards inside the Ipswich half. He skips away from a couple of challenges. Grealish through the middle, Mubama's pass back to Grealish, that was cut out, and now Ipswich actually through Morsey will try and play it away from the back themselves, and Tuanzebe goes long. Ipswich next, no let up, just like the very start of the season. They play Liverpool again, having started out this season with their first 2 matches back in the Premier League against Liverpool and Manchester City. That's how it is now. So they go to Anfield next Saturday, but after that, Southampton at home, and that looks like what you would describe as a must-win for them.
Yeah, it does, and I think after this game finishes, whatever the score will be, it's a job for Kieran McKenna to lift his squad. I mean, I think most Ipswich Town fans and also the squad deep down probably thought, right, okay, let's see what sort of result we can get against City. Can we put in a really good performance? That the performance hasn't been great, and that has let them down a bit, and obviously their score reflects that. But City have been ruthless. We've been mentioning it in the commentary most of the night. They've been absolutely ruthless in front of goal, but Ipswich now just need to regather, and then from there, okay, they've got a massive game against Liverpool. Again, it's putting in a performance, stay in the game as long as possible, gain some confidence as much as they can, momentum forward in preparation for that Southampton game.
Yeah, Manchester City still just with the ball in the central third of the field. Does feel like the match is petering out to the inevitable big Manchester City win. But I do hear people say, and I agree with it as well, that there is something about Ipswich that makes you think they do have a chance, but it's going to be a battle for them.
Yeah, there's no doubt it's going to be a battle, and I think that was the expectation right from day one. Once the promotion happened, was that it's going to be a battle to keep Ipswich down in the Premier League. I think all the teams that got promoted, it's exactly the same feeling, and it's about then how quickly does one adapt to the level of the Premier League with the players that you got, new squad. Let's not forget Ipswich Town have got a lot of new players this season. They're trying to integrate as well.
Yeah, Grealish is able to keep possession near the corner of the penalty area. Grealish again socks even further down than previously, and then Doku will play it back more to Lewis. Jack Grealish then takes it back towards the halfway line, and Mateus Nunes through to O'Reilly, and Lewis, Mateus Nunes, and then Lewis again gives it to Mateus Nunes. In fact, they'll go all the way back to Diaz on the right-hand side here, just down in front of us. Gvardiol being forced by Hurst to play it back to Ederson, and Hurst is going to have a go. He's going to take Ederson on, and he sprints towards him, and Ederson passes it past him as though he's not even there. And now O'Reilly will break away from the halfway line. Davis is trying to get back at him. O'Reilly's still there, but Morsey comes across with a challenge as well, and then it's cleared away on the edge of the box and bounces back to Leif Davis and Burgess here. Left-footed ball forward, but that's straight into the path of Diaz, O'Reilly, Gundogan, and then Mateus Nunes. McAtee on the right wing. O'Reilly takes possession of that, and back it goes to the halfway line. So we're in the 89th minute now. 6:06 coming on 08085 909 693, and during the course of the programme as well, we'll hope to have live interviews for you with what should be a much cheerier Pep Guardiola than he has been often this season, the day after his birthday as well, the 54th birthday of Pep Guardiola. And I think after the Haaland contract news this week, and now winning 6-0 away from home, things are on the up and up. But they've got to keep it going in Paris this midweek. So that's Wednesday night. On Tuesday night, an early start. Our commentary team will be in Monaco for Aston Villa against Monaco. That's 5:45 as Doku wins the ball back. That was too easy, really, but then Morsey's able to take it away from Doku on the edge of the box. And Burgess will walk it away from his penalty area. Fourth official down there, Tim Robinson, is getting the board ready. The end of this match can't come quickly enough for Ipswich, and then Philogene passes the ball ahead of Davis, straight out of play for a throw-in. 3 minutes of added time, and Ipswich will want to get into the dressing room, get out of there and forget about this as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? When you see the board go up, when you're being outplayed as much as they have today, and you just can't wait for that final whistle to go and get yourself back in that change room.
So Manchester City start again from inside their own half. Champions League commentary Tuesday night, the double header, Liverpool against Lille as well, and PSG Manchester City on Wednesday night. And don't miss Thursday night as well, live from Old Trafford, Manchester United against Rangers. Grealish playing it into Gundogan, deep pass. McAtee goes for the header again, but this time he couldn't get that on target. At the back post, stretching, could only head it up and wide of the top corner.
Yeah, just slightly overruns it, I think, in the end, and it goes back across, over the top of the crossbar. He had room, he had space. He should have played it back across the face of the goal because he had a teammate in Mwema who was making that run in the 6-yard box. Could have easily just simple tap in.
So 6-0 Manchester City. This is the sort of scoreline that for many years it feels was a regular occurrence for Manchester City, but we've not seen anything like this in the Premier League this season. I know they won 8-0 in the FA Cup last weekend, but that was against Salford City. But to do this away from home against a Premier League team, that's a proper statement of intent. The goal scorers, 2 from Foden in the first half, Kovacic as well, 3-0 at half-time, and then in the second half, the Doku shot that was deflected in. Erling Haaland got his goal, and James McAtee, the substitute, was the scorer of the 6th. And at that point there was still 20 minutes left, but substitution after substitution has disrupted the flow. Manchester City though still dominating possession. Davis closes down Mateus Nunes. Philogene is going to take it away from him. Philogene just again puts his foot on the ball, knocks it quickly from foot to foot, then comes infield to Morsey. Mubama is tackling him, then back in the central area it is O'Shea, and then Burgess hits the pass to Davis, who does well to get that under control in front of McAtee, and Luongo, long right-footed pass over the top of Hurst. He had City players either side of him, but it's through for a goal kick. So we are in the final minute now of added time. I can see royal blue seats, empty plastic seats appearing all around Portman Road. And those who are there, certainly in the Sir Bobby Robson stand, are trying to get behind their team for the remainder of the match. The Sir Bobby Robson stand mark at one end and the Sir Alf Ramsey stand at the other. It's a remarkable thing, isn't it, for this football club? 2 of the now 4 England managers who've been knighted, 2 of them have such strong connections with Ipswich Town.
Yeah, 2 absolute legends of English football.
And there we are, the final whistle goes. Ipswich fall to their heaviest defeat since returning to the Premier League this season, and Manchester City bounce right back to form with this scoreline, 6-0. They've had an excellent day, a really good performance, right out of the kind of performances that we've seen over the course of these recent title-winning years, and they'll go to Paris in very good heart this week. Mark Schwarzer.
Yeah, they will, and I think it's the perfect game for Pep Guardiola's side in preparation for that game in Paris. You know, it's about building momentum again. Obviously the disappointment of squandering a 2-goal lead against Brentford, now to back it up with a really good performance, being ruthless in front of goal. The key players looking to get back into form, and they certainly showed that today in De Bruyne, Doku, Foden, Haaland on the score sheet. I think that's really important for City moving forward.
Yep, so now just 6 points behind Arsenal, and actually their next 2 Premier League matches are Chelsea at home and Arsenal away, both 5 live commentary matches. So Manchester City back in the top 4. Final score, Ipswich Town 0, Manchester City 6.
For a second, John, I thought you were going to say back in the title race.
Well, I was floating it to Mark.
I mean, even with a string of massive results, Mark, if Manchester City took this result and all of a sudden it was the thing they needed to become like themselves again, there just isn't enough time, is there? Is there?
No, not normally. No, not normally. And I don't think, like we said before in the commentary, I just don't think Liverpool are going to lose enough games for City to have a chance of winning it. But to actually finish in the top two, I think Man City are more than capable of doing that. They've got the strength, they've got the ability, the know-how, and I think they can definitely finish in the top two. They're a top-class side, there's no doubt about it, and they're just trying to find their way back to that form, and today I think was a good step in that direction.
There's good reaction here, Steve. Yeah. This is the Ipswich Town crowd you can hear now, and even though they've lost 6-0 at home, as I said during the course of the commentary, let's not forget that 2 years ago they were in League One, Ipswich Town, and I think this is a recognition here from the Ipswich fans who are still in the stadium, those who haven't left early, that they know what Ipswich are in here, and they know where their team are, and they know what they've been up against today, and that's why we're seeing this noise of home support for Ipswich Town after this size of defeat.
It's impressive. It really is impressive, and Ipswich Town supporters need to pat themselves on the back, because it's absolutely amazing for players that after a game like this where you lost 6-0 you feel so embarrassed, you feel so down, and for the supporters still to back them like that is really impressive.
It reminds me, John, a little bit of many Luton Town games last season, actually, seeing Rob Edwards kind of go around the pitch, and you could tell from the look on his face that, you know, he sort of knew that the direction of travel was it's going to be incredibly difficult. But having an understanding of where you are, fans, players, manager, is also very important, I suppose. Yeah,
very much so. And actually what we've been saying about Ipswich and what many people are saying are the kinds of things that we were saying about Luton last season. You know, yeah. People felt that they had enough about them, perhaps just to finish above the line, and that's how it is with Ipswich. We know what happened to Luton, but this is a different story.
Just saying, Mark, as well, the Manchester City celebrations with Pep Guardiola in front of the City fans and all of the City players as well. And it sort of seemed a little bit like a bit of a vibe of, I know you've all been waiting for something like this for quite a while now.
Yeah, very much so. And I think, you know, for the players, they couldn't believe what was going on. Pep Guardiola, we saw his reactions, various stages of reactions and disbelief of how the side sort of fell away, and there was no explanation, and trying to put a finger on any way, shape or form of how they could turn it around. They've just obviously got their head down, they've kept working and they kept believing and they kept pushing, and today we saw a Manchester City side that is certainly heading back in that direction. Yes, you could argue and say, well, Ipswich were nowhere near the level they needed to be and certainly didn't put them under enough pressure. Yes, but Manchester City were ruthless, and in that first 45 minutes were very, very good.
And I suppose it's not just the team performance, it's specific individual performances, isn't it? Kevin De Bruyne looking like his old self again, Phil Foden looking like his old self again.
Yeah, and Doku as well. Yep. Let's not forget, Doku had a major part to play. I think his combination work down this left-hand side with Kevin De Bruyne was huge, really impressive. I said in the commentary, I expected Doku to be the one making those runs into the box and receiving the balls from Kevin De Bruyne. It was the reverse. That's how energetic Kevin De Bruyne looked. He's crossing into the box was great. Phil Foden's movement was excellent. Every time Phil Foden got the ball, he looked like he was going to score. Kovacic, I think, was excellent. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a brilliant player. He scored a really good goal. He was all over the place as well. I mean, you can put out a number of plays that look really, really good.
And I imagine, Mark, we talked before the game about the fact that Manchester City are about to reload. You know, the recruits, the new recruits, the reinforcements are on the way. So when you take that and you add it to a 6-0 win, so a clean sheet, 5 different scorers, the likes of Foden back on the score sheet as well. I mean, if this isn't going to drag them back to close to what they were, then what will, really, I suppose?
Well, I think I think one thing you can't do is get too carried away and think, right, they're back. Yeah. But it's that momentum, isn't it? It's that belief coming back, and it's the individual performances of those people we mentioned who look like their old self. That look, the touches, the movement. They looked sharp. The finishes were there, and I think that's really, really important. And yes, the additions may take a little bit of time sometimes to bed in. Other than that, it's just seeing Manchester City getting stronger and stronger.
But back on Ipswich, and those scenes at the full-time whistle with the fans staying to applaud them after a 6-0 defeat. That is really nice. I just wonder, as a player, the normal thing we would say is, but Ipswich's season is not going to be decided by results against teams like Manchester City, which is true. But I just wonder, when it's 6-0, when it is a real humbling, even though City are a team who are miles ahead of Ipswich, can it still have a big impact on you as a player in a relegation-threatened side?
It can. It really, really can, and it's up to the manager to be really strong in his messaging and his words to the players in terms of explanation, discussions about what went wrong, how they need to improve. I think also when they see it at Ipswich Town, they see the type of goals they conceded and see that they could have done so much better. They could have prevented certain things. Movements were really good, balls were really good, but they could have done better in certain instances. I think that will also help, because you'll know as a player, right, I just need to make sure I do my job properly. Individual players, and it didn't seem like there were enough leaders out there today to grab it by the scruff of the neck and say, right, no, we need to tighten up. We need to maybe keep it a little bit more simple rather than play ourselves or play City into the game, which they did in the second half. They literally gave them 2-3 goals in that second half by their own bad play, by losing the ball, by passing directly to City and giving them opportunities to score and get more goals on that score sheet.
Good stuff, both. Thank you both very much indeed. Mark Schwarzer and correspondent John Murray, thank you at Portman Road. Ipswich 0, Manchester City 6.